Hello everyone, it's Xander here from Xander's Bricks and welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate LEGO City Rebuild. Behind me there is a lot of progress that hasn't been recorded. And that's because I've been working on it over the past few weeks and just not really filming because I didn't really have the motivation to do full projects. So yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense, but I'm gonna update you guys on where exactly we're at because in the last episode we touched on the Spring Lantern Festival and unfortunately it had an abrupt ending. So I'll show you guys what we actually completed with the Spring Lantern Festival, and on top of that I'm gonna show you a ton of other things that I've been working on and what we're gonna be working on in this episode. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Now, like I mentioned, the Spring Lantern Festival is what we worked on last, and this is everything that I got done. There's a few small changes since last time, but ultimately there really isn't a finalized look on this yet. And unfortunately, we're not going to touch that in today's episode because we have a ton of other things that I want to work on instead. So just a few of the things that still need to be done in this section is, of course, more nature, but on top of that, I also need to finish the walkway. So obviously they need all their stone detailing, and this side really doesn't have that yet. So I do need to finish that up. But we did make some major progress on something that I've been looking forward to for years, and that is this section over here, which, as you can see, has begun the work of tiling. Now, I don't have nearly enough tiles to finish it, so unfortunately in this episode we won't be completing this area, but as you can see, we've installed our castaway here. We started working on some waves. I've even started working on some really rough waves at the edge there by the sand. But in today's episode, we will be working on this section, which I'll get to in a minute because we do have one last thing I want to scoot over for you guys to see, which is over in this section. As you can see, we've got a brand new store. I kind of adapted the idea that we were going to be working on this section. Originally, we were going to have our McDonald's, a 7-Eleven, and then half of a store, but instead I wanted to do a full restaurant. And we did the iconic Midwest classic, Culver's. If you guys don't know it, look it up, go to one, do all that, because this is a delicious place and we've started work on this one. So it's not nearly done yet, but it is a huge start. And as you can see, our McDonald's is still in the same shape that it's been before. We've also added some power lines, again, in the works. So we'll have another power line over on this side. We also need our drive-throughs still, but overall, this section is getting some huge progress. On top of that, we started coming up with the idea for the road, which isn't changed much since last time. Along with that, we're also working more on that upper barrier, which, again, nothing crazy, because today we're going to be working on that beach section. So let's take a look at it, what exactly I mean. So right now, the beach section is a mess, to say the least, but it is a organized mess, as I know kind of what I'm doing. So first up, we need to figure out if we're going to make another layer of the beach, which we might make a little bit of one to kind of smooth it out, like I did with my last layout. So we'll have a bit of sand here, but then it will be just down to this plate. On top of that, we're also going to be placing in our lifeguard tower, probably about here. We may be rebuilding it though, because I have some cool ideas. And also our Flintstones house, which will be living around here as well. On top of that, I'd also like to work on the building that will be going in this back section. This one will probably just be like some sort of surf shop. So we'll have some like things for people to rent, maybe some beach showers and whatnot. And then in this section here, we'll probably have a small little convenience store. Here will be a completely different thing, but that is a project for another time because today we need to work on this section. So the first thing that we need to do is, of course, pick up all this mess and lay down some sand. Sorry for the yawning, guys. Let's jump right into it. After multiple hours of work, I got a lot done, and before I got too far, I wanted to show you what I've gotten. So let's take a look. So my workspace is, of course, a mess, as always. I thought I'd start with that, but the beach itself has actually gotten pretty far. So if we go down here, we'll see that the sand is now in place. So you can see that we've got some sand coming down, but I also have some sand coming up on the wall. I felt like that kind of made sense. And I've started that process all the way down. Further we go. We haven't quite made it all the way to the end, but we're getting there. I also went ahead and fully set in the Flintstones house there. So you can see it's not gonna move. I want to maybe build a back to it. So that's why we have some sand pieces there. Probably try and build some sort of back to it that won't mess with the roof too much, hopefully. I'm fine if I have to modify it a bit. I just don't want to modify it a ton. Along with that, I also started working on some custom palm trees, which are absolutely massive. I don't love the top yet, but it's getting there. The idea is kind of there, and it's getting there. I'm also gonna need some more of these bush pieces that we're using for the underside of it so that I can finish these other ones. I think I want to have 3 or 4 of those trees stretching along here. Now, you might be wondering, well, Xander, why haven't you had these before? Well, to be completely honest, I didn't know how tall palm trees were until I saw them in person, which I recently did, and wow, they're massive. So we went ahead and built some really massive ones, and I'm absolutely in love with how they're turning out so far. Just those tops need some work. Along with that, I also added in the lifeguard tower. Again, that might get some modification. However, I think we might leave it for now just because the size is kind of perfect with the space that we're working in. Now, the next step will be, of course, to finish up the sand and whatnot that we were working on, maybe build the back of that Flintstones house, but I also want to get started on the foundation of the 2 stores that are going in this back area here. So let's get those vehicles out of there and get a start on this section. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so after quite a long time of working, I made a huge mess in the city, but made some major progress. Let's take a look. So as you can see, we've got a big mess here in the water and whatnot, but we have finally built up the Surf and Stuff rental place. So we've got some lower level here, which would obviously have like the inventory, upper level, maybe like a rental space. We've got a shower with the surfboards and whatnot, all kind of stored in one little cubby. And then the staircase leading up to the rental property there. Top of that, I also built some palm trees. Now, it's not going to live here, but this is just an idea that I may have some palm trees here. I may have some palm trees down in this area. I'm thinking maybe 3 palm trees down here, and then maybe 6 or so palm trees up on the top here. And then you may have noticed the taco sign. I don't know if I'm gonna do tacos yet or not, but this will be our space that we can build it in. So it'll probably be a multi-level restaurant space. I'm not really sure yet, but I am excited for that. On top of that, we also started work on a boardwalk or pier or whatever you want to call it. I think it's more of a boardwalk that will be connected to our staircase here leading up to the top section. So we might have some docks coming off of it or something like that, but this section already figured out. I know what I'm building in there. That won't be happening in this episode, but it will be happening soon. So next up, I want to finally figure out what I'm going to do with this space. And on top of that, I also want to clean up some more of the beach. I didn't complete one of the tasks I wanted to, which was to build up the back of the Flintstones house. I promise I will get to that sometime soon, hopefully in this episode, but I'm just not 100% sure yet. So I'm gonna get to work on this section here, and I will be back once I finish that. It has been quite a while since I've worked on the city, but I did finish that taco place I was talking about. I took a little bit of a different approach than I was expecting, and I made it a 1-tier building, really taking inspiration from real-life taco restaurants with that roof design, of course, and even the little pillars that stick out of the building. On top of that, we added in a very large taco. I can't remember if that was in it last time, but I don't think so. But yeah, I'm really liking that I stayed with the yellow color as well, so it's just yellow across the board. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm not going to build the building that's going here yet. I have an idea, but we're not going to get there yet. Along with that, this boardwalk might get just a bit shorter because I have to add in that rock face that I was talking about, I believe in last episode or the episode prior, that will have our staircase coming up to it in some sort of format so that we actually have the space complete there, which we should hopefully be completing in the next episode. Along with that, we got some progress just cleaning up, sorting things here. But yeah, the beach area along with itself is turning out great. There's a few more things I want to complete in this episode though. First off, we still need to add the back to the Flintstones house, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I don't know how it's going to go. It might go absolutely terrible, but I feel like it really needs it considering it's facing outward, so you can definitely see it. If I were to like stand and face my city or make reels and whatnot, you can definitely see the inside of the Flintstones house, which I'm just not a huge fan of, so I'm going to add like a really smooth wall there. Along with that, I'm thinking about adding in some tables or something down in the beach area, especially over by those restaurant and surfing area.
And I'm also thinking about adding some wood planks kind of leading to the beach, kind of like just like a little pathway and something like that. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I kind of have an idea in my head and I just want to get it done. But I also need to pick up all of this stuff here. So we're going to kind of clean up the area as well, but I'm definitely going to work on that Flintstones house and maybe even working on some like tables and whatnot to kind of make the beach area look a little bit more like this, because this area up here is what I love. I love how it's all fun and filled, and especially even this area too. There's so much life going on in it, and I want to really get that in this space here, because right now it feels kind of dead. So I think I'm gonna do that. I might rework some things. I'm not really sure yet, but let's work on the Flintstones house and see where I get.
I know I said I was going to do a lot in this next section, but I just finished the back of the Flintstones house and I really want to show you guys it. So let's take a look.
All right, so don't mind the down trees and whatnot. I was kind of making a mess. But as you'll notice, if you're familiar with the Flintstones house, the roof was expanded by one. I might expand it again, but so far it's good like that. But if we move to the back, you'll see, that's right, there's a back to the Flintstones house. Now, the actual like roof section is not perfect. You can see there's some gaps, but I don't think anyone's gonna look at it close enough to be like, oh my gosh, there's a gap. Now, I am wondering though, if I would like it a little bit more like that. So you see it's a little bit more centered. I understand that that's not a perfect representation, but because it is a little bit off, but I don't think I hate it. I think I kind of like it. I don't know. It's going to take some getting used to just having a back on it in general, but I think I did a pretty decent job with the slopes and whatnot. Not my finest work, definitely not as good as, you know, this, but I think that this is a great look for the Flintstones house, filling up that space and just covering that back because it really needs to be done. With that being said though, now I will get to the cleaning up of this stuff and maybe adding in some of those tables and whatnot that I was talking about. So let's get to that. So the goal was to do a lot in this section, and that's kind of felt like how it was supposed to be for like this whole episode, but a lot didn't get done. But we kind of are running out of time for this episode, so I wanted to show you and just kind of wrap up what we did. Obviously, still got a ton of clutter here. I swear I will pick it up sooner rather than later, just not in this episode, and we'll finish up this area soon. But I did add some tables. Now I don't have chairs, I don't have like any sort of food stands or nothing here, but tables are in, which means that we're one step closer to getting the ideas of this stuff down to here. So a lot more still needs to be done, chairs, benches, things like that, but this is a great start. On top of that, we've got just a bit more stuff cluttered out here, but they're ideas, including some new rock faces. So in a future episode, hopefully the next one or the one after that, we'll be able to finish that rock face finally. I also just purchased some road plates, so I'll be able to finish up a bunch of this in the next episode. But for now, this is what we accomplished in this episode. I mean, we've got a brand new surf shop, a brand new taco shop. Of course, you saw a bunch of the stuff that I did with the Spring Lantern Festival. Still more to be done. We got the back to the Flintstones house and it implemented along with some tables. We've got our lifeguard tower implemented along with some new tiles on the ocean. So a ton got done in this episode.
Now, to those of you who have stuck around for this series from episode 1 until now, which I believe is episode 6, huge thank you. I mean, I know it's been all over the place. We are kind of in a routine now though. We'll get an episode of this every once a month or so. Now, there is a ton to be done, but next month we will have even more accomplished, including roads, beach getting finally finished up, some more on that Spring Lantern Festival, and of course, more by the restaurants that I was talking about earlier in this episode. But we are finally getting to a point where the city is looking really fantastic. And of course, you already know that means I'm starting to have a million new ideas. So, of course, stay tuned for next episode where we do a whole ton and maybe even start brainstorming some really cool, awesome ideas for the future layout of this city, because we've got some really crazy modulars coming soon. We got some really crazy builds I want to implement, things like that. Just so much to be excited for. And of course, if you have any ideas yourself, leave them in the comments down below. I love to read them. I love to think what you guys have could work in this city, because I would love to add your ideas. So you guys let me know. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And if you haven't watched all the previous ones, make sure to go check them out. There's some really fantastic ones out there just showing the progress of this city. So thank you guys so much for all the love and support recently, and I'll catch you guys next time right here in the Ultimate LEGO City Rebuild, or next week for yet another awesome YouTube video. I'll see you guys next time.